They vanished until that stormy night changed everything. A cold Los Angeles rain pounded the neon sign of Sunset Diner, casting shifting reflections across the slick pavement. Inside, the warm aroma of fresh coffee and sweet apple pie set a comforting backdrop, yet none of it mattered to Emily Carter. At 29, she prided herself on handling any challenge behind the diner counter until tonight. Emily wiped down the last booth, straightening the sugar packet holder when the bell above the door chimed softly. She glanced up to see Keanu Reeves step in, shaking raindrops from his leather jacket. Even in simple jeans and a dark sweater, his presence drew every eye. He chose a corner booth, avoiding the bustling crowd, and offered a tired but polite nod as Emily approached with a steaming cup of black coffee. "Thank you," he murmured, voice low and sincere. Emily had read about his generosity secret donations to children's hospitals, funding cancer research, quietly supporting countless charities. She felt a swell of admiration but had no time to dwell on it, for a harsh voice cut through the diner's ambient hum. "Well, if it isn't Mr. Hollywood?" Earl Thompson huffed from his usual stool at the counter. Earl, a crusty regular, with a reputation for blunt opinions, stood and stalked over to Keanu's table. The diner went silent in anticipation. "Bet you're off buying fancy cars while real folks struggle here," he sneered, eyes narrowed. Emily's heart pounded. The diner's neon glow felt suddenly cold. She inhaled, gathering courage. Stepping forward, she said, "That's not true. Keanu donates millions to children's hospitals and cancer research. He even gave away most of his Matrix earnings to the special effects team." Her voice trembled at first, but she pressed on. "He doesn't do it for attention, he does it because he cares." Earl's scowl deepened. "Nobody asked you, girl," he shot back. "Since when do you defend movie stars?" Emily's pulse raced, but she refused to back down. "Because people spread lies about good people. He does it quietly, out of kindness. If you spent 5 minutes looking up the facts instead of believing gossip, you know." The tension tightened. Even Keanu remained seated, gratitude and concern flickering in his eyes. From the kitchen doorway, Robert Anderson's Sunset Diner's owner emerged. His face was drawn tight, disappointment etched in every line. "Emily." "Carter," he barked, voice echoing across the room. "My office." Now, inside Robert's cramped office, rainwater pooled beneath the chipped linoleum. He didn't bother with pleasantries. "You're fired," he said simply. "We don't argue with loyal customers like Earl. Pack your bags and clear out your locker tonight." Emily's chest felt like it had been punched. "You're firing me for standing up to a bully?" she asked, her voice breaking. Robert's gaze was cold. "I'm firing you for risking my business. Earl's been coming here for 20 years. I won't lose him over your theatrics." Emily turned, fighting back. Tears. She gathered her belongings in silence, each raindrop outside sounding like a drumbeat of fate. Just as she stepped out the door into the downpour, Keanu reached out and caught her arm. "I'm sorry," he said gently. "You didn't have to defend me, but thank you." That took courage. Emily forced a small, brave smile as she slipped past him into the storm dot the next morning. Rain still streaking the windows of her modest apartment, Emily's phone buzzed relentlessly. An unknown number flashed on the screen. She answered, her voice hoarse. "Hello, Miss Carter?" asked a calm voice. "We're with Keanu Reeves' production company. We saw what happened last night at Sunset Diner. Keanu was impressed by your integrity. He wants you as our research coordinator for a new documentary series on everyday heroes. Full benefits, relocate if needed. Are you interested?" Emily's breath caught. "Yes, absolutely." She managed. 2 hours later, she found herself walking back into Sunset Diner, this time as a guest. The bell chimed overhead and every head turned. Earl Thompson froze mid-swallow, his coffee forgotten. Robert Anderson stood behind the counter, regret darkening his eyes. "I came to return my uniform," Emily said softly, placing the neatly folded apron on the counter. "And to thank you." "Thank me?" Robert echoed, confusion bleeding into his voice. "Yes," Emily replied, her gaze steady. "If you hadn't fired me for doing the right thing, I wouldn't have been offered my dream job." She turned, meeting Earl's eyes. Sometimes losing something small opens the door to something bigger. Whispers rippled through the diner as customers processed her words. Earl lowered his gaze, shifting uncomfortably. Emily continued, "Kindness matters whether you're famous or not. Standing up for what's right matters even more." With that, she walked out into the now brightening morning, knowing her life had irrevocably changed. Over the following months, Emily threw herself into her new role. She crisscrossed Los Angeles, interviewing teachers who spent their own money, owned student supplies, neighbors who rescued elderly residents during storms, and teens who stood up to bullies without hesitation. Each story reminded her of that rain-soaked night and the power of a single act of truth. Flashback, sepia. In 1974, 51 children vanished without a trace from a remote boarding school. Ghostly images of rusted trucks pulling away frightened. Faces pressed against frosted glass, and the distant cry of a mother calling her child echoed through, memory remnants of a scar the city had never fully healed, returning to the present. Emily understood her project was more than mere documentary. It was a chance to excavate long-hidden truths and shine a light on resilience. 1 year later, March 2020, Emily sat in a packed theater for the premiere of Ordinary People, Extraordinary Courage. The lights dimmed and applause rose as the title card appeared. Mid-credits, her name flashed on the screen. Co-producer, Emily Carter, inspired by Emily's courage. A surge of emotion swelled in her chest. As the final scene faded, Keanu Reeves, seated beside her, leaned in, voice hushed but earnest. "You inspired this," he said. "Your courage started a chain reaction of kindness. Thank you." Tears filled Emily's eyes as she looked around at the audience, imagining how many lives her work might touch. Stepping into the fresh March air afterward, raindrops still clung to the sidewalk, but the world felt brighter. She realized that night in the diner, standing up for someone else had cost her a job, but given her a purpose far greater. Sometimes the biggest transformations come from the smallest acts of bravery. And in defending another's honor, Emily Carter discovered exactly where she was meant to be.